Hey, it's Misty from the Book Rat, and it's time for my May Rewind. So this is a look back at what I read in May with a quick thumbs up, thumbs down rating. Alright, before I get into this month's Rewind, I just want to say real quick, I'm sorry that this is going up late. I know that it is. My computer hates me, and I essentially had to wipe it out and start over. But I was going out of town for the weekend, so that didn't get to happen until today. So I have done that. It is working and being a little less of a jerk now, but it kind of gave me the impetus to do something that I've been wanting to do, which is move BookJet to the middle of the month. As things stand now, the beginning of the month tends to be really top-heavy with my rewind for the prior month, my TBR for the current month, and BookJet all within the first 5 days of the month. And then the rest of the month is just kind of not really set in stone. It's just if I have books, then I'll show you a book haul. If I have time to do a review, I'll do a review. But it's kind of hit and miss as far as that goes. So I have been thinking about moving BookChat to the 15th so that it's more balanced. And since my computer decided to be a jackass, that kind of helped me make that decision. So I'm putting the TBR up and the rewind up today. But this month's book chat will not go up until the 15th, which is good because I don't even know what I'm going to talk about yet. So if you have any ideas or topics that you'd like to see on book chat at some point, definitely let me know. I want to try to keep a running list, and I want to know what you guys want to chat about or hear me talk ad nauseum at you about. But yeah, so just a little note there, but on to the rewind. I dubbed May the month of catch-up because I had a lot of catching up to do, and I'm going to go ahead and give myself a pat on the back because I did pretty damn good this month. You guys, this video is going to be so long. I've read so many books. So, without further ado, I'm going to get right into it. First up, I read Slated by Terry. This does get a thumbs up for me. I have reviewed this one already on the blog, so I will leave a link to that below if you want the full spiel. But for the most part, I thought it was a really good take on dystopia when dystopia is starting to become a little bit watered down, especially in YA. To me, a good dystopia takes something about our society now and holds a mirror up to it and takes it to its most logical extreme to show what could be from what is. You can see how they would happen, you know, bit by bit, and, you know, you'd already be drowning before you realized you were even, you know, in the water. And that's what I like about dystopia. That's what I think it should be. And I thought that this did a pretty good job of that. It helped, too, that Kyla was an interesting narrator, and I'm curious to see what her past was all about. So I will definitely be looking for book 2, but until then you can pick up Slated now, and don't forget to check out my review. Next, I picked up Bells by Jen Kalanita. This is the one that I didn't finish. I tried, I really did try, and it wasn't that I ever disliked it so much. There was nothing that I could pinpoint to say this was horrible and this is why I had to put it down. Though there were definitely a lot of pet peeves and things that kind of drove me out of my mind that would have been easy fixes. But for the most part, it was just that I didn't care. I mean, you could have told me that one of them, like, gets hit by a car or runs off to join the circus or whatever, and I would have just been like, oh. I didn't care. I didn't develop any kind of connection to any of them. It felt like reading an after-school special, which is not something that I ever want to do. So it just wasn't drawing me in, and I'm sure for the right audience, and definitely a younger audience, it would work. But I was just looking for some charm and some good developed family drama, and it just, from what I read, wasn't there. Maybe it all turns and starts going in the right direction and finishes beautifully. I don't know. But if you can't capture me after 150 pages, you don't get more chances than that. So in other words, that was a thumbs down. Next up was Revived by Kat Patrick, which gets a thumbs up. I just reviewed this one too, so I will leave a link to that. When I heard about this one, I was thinking that it was going to be kind of like Slated, that it was going to be dystopia, and I had heard a lot of people tossing around the word dystopia in connection with Revived. And, you know, it's about a girl that has to start fresh. She's revived from the dead. She has to move to a new town and start over, which is similar to Slating, where your mind is wiped and you're starting over. So I thought they would be kind of an interesting cross-read. But the fact is, it's not that at all. It's not dystopian. I don't know why people were calling it dystopia. It's actually just a modern sci-fi, and I think works so much better for that than it would have if it was dystopia. It would have fallen really flat for me if it was a dystopia, and it wouldn't have been something that felt vital and felt crucial. But as a modern sci-fi, it was intriguing, and it was something that you could feel could really be going on right now, which is a bonus. But what I liked most about it was that it went places I wasn't expecting it to go. It had some layers and some depth to it that just kind of surprised me, and I love when that happens. There were 2 books in my TBR last month that I said I would probably have to put off, and that if there were any that I had to put off, it would be those 2, SERAPHINA and Shadow and Bone. And that of all of them, I could put off SERAPHINA the longest, because it doesn't come out until July. However, that didn't stop me from next picking up SERAPHINA by Rachel Hartman. I really had no justification for picking this up. I knew I had a huge stack of things to read. I knew that this didn't come out for a good long while. I really shouldn't have picked it up. It's huge. It's a beast. It could have been potentially a really bad judgment on my part. But I was just kind of craving, some good epic fantasy, and I had heard stellar things about this, and so I thought, well, maybe it will kind of spur a good reading kick. And so I thought, well, I'll just give it a couple pages, I'll try. So I went ahead and I read it, and oh my god, I devoured it. It did exactly what I wanted. It definitely was one that I tore through and didn't want to put down. And it did, spark a bit of a voracious reading streak. I don't regret it at all, even if I had to knock a couple books off the TBR. I loved it. Huge thumbs up. It's really good. It's great world building. I loved SERAPHINA, and I loved the dragons. Their take on emotion and sentimentality, and how it was sort of a disease, and how SERAPHINA is caught between these two, and the sort of political intrigue aspect, and how she's tangled up in that too. And one of the things that I loved most, and it's so rare in YA, was the romance. It was slow, and it was cerebral, and it was perfectly suited to the 2 characters. And it was the type of romance that you're not sure is ever gonna happen. Maybe it's just gonna be this little bittersweet thing, and you can tell they're both attracted to each other, but there are things keeping them apart. There was no insta-loviness, there was no rush on their part to say F all to the world and just be together. They were very tentative, and they were very thoughtful, and you got to know each character independently before you got to know them as potential lovers. And that is so rare and so just exactly what I want and exactly what I look for. I love the build-up, and I love coming to my own conclusions about them and knowing that they're supposed to be together versus being told the minute that they lock eyes that they're supposed to be together. It was this very organic friendship turned romance, and it was pitch perfect. Loved it. Well worth the nearly 450 pages. If you haven't pre-ordered it or put yourself on your library wait list, or however it is that you get books, do so. Okay, so after that detour, I got back on track with what I had intended to kick the month off with, which was The Drowned Cities by Paolo Bacigalupi. Now, I had said in my May TBR that I was probably going to read Shipbreaker first, because this is a companion novel, but I decided not to for a couple reasons. One, I wanted to be able to cut it, just to save time, but mostly I wanted to let people know if this was readable as its own thing, whether you needed Shipbreaker to understand what was going on. And if I would have started it and been really lost, I would have stopped and picked up Shipbreaker. That wasn't the case. It pulled me right in. I'm sure that Shipbreaker maybe would have made me see things a little bit differently, or would have known some of the things that was coming, but I actually liked that I didn't. I liked that I was just kind of plunged in, and it was a really dark, really grim world. It tackles a lot of big things, and in a lot of goes a lot of very dark places, but it's saved from being just relentlessly grim by these little spots of brightness, by childhood friendships and hope and loyalty and courage, and things that really have no business surviving in a world like this, but somehow do. I don't think that it will necessarily be for everyone. Some people will be probably too squeamish for this one, but for me, I thought it worked excellent. It was a great post-apocalyptic take on zealotry and fanaticism and child soldiers, and a lot of things that were believable in all their darkness. It was excellent world building, excellent characters. I loved every one of them. And I would highly recommend it whether you have read Shipbreaker or not.